beautiful people, and Happy New Year. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you the 7 worst books that I read in 2024. Don't you worry, Best Books is coming. I'm sorry I'm a little late. We all got sick over the holiday. You can probably hear it in my voice, a little sniffly. If you are new to my channel, hi, I am April. You can think of me as your bookish fairy godmother. On my channel, my goal is to help you find your next 5-star read. And these are just a few of the 5-star reads that live rent-free in my head. If you like what you see, I hope you'll subscribe, hit the bell, stay a while. Liquid Courage. One of the worst books that I read in 2024 was The Historian by Elizabeth Kostova. I, in fact, DNF'd it after a very long time. This is a chunky book. I invested a lot of time in it and then ultimately decided I can't do this anymore. This follows a young woman who is going through her father's library. She stumbles upon some letters that say, "My dear unfortunate successor," and starts reading through it. And it appears that her father has links and ties to Dracula, Vlad the Impaler, whatever you want to call him. I love a little darkness, a little gothicness, but this was too slow. My God, nothing happened. She would talk to her father about these letters and he was like, "Okay, it's time for me to tell you the story of what happened to me." She's like, "Okay, go ahead, dish." And he's like, "Here's a drop." And so she listened to him as he told a little tiny bit about the story. And then he'd stop for the day. And then like 17 years later, he would be like, "Here's another drop." It just felt like he was never going to tell the story. And at one point I was just like, I don't even care. I don't even care. Is there Dracula in real life? I don't care. Don't give a damn. I just wanted the pot to spill all over him. Spill the damn tea. Spill it. The next book was a surprise for me. This is The Woman in Cabin 10 by Ruth Ware. This is my beloved Ruth Ware. Now, I will say, for the most part, I love a Ruth Ware book. Her earlier stuff sometimes does not sit well with me. And I think this was her second book, and it did nothing for me. This is about a woman on a luxury cruise ship. She is a journalist, like a travel journalist, travel writer, and she suspects that a woman who was staying right next to her, next door, was either thrown overboard or jumped. She tries to alert the people on the ship in charge, and they are like, "That person never existed. What are you talking about?" I just felt like I wasn't compelled to care for this woman who was thrown overboard. That makes me sound like a terrible person. Obviously, I don't want people to be, lost at sea or anything like that. But there was such a very brief interaction between our main character and this woman that there was nothing compelling me to care that much. It sounds so bad. God. Anyway, this is apparently coming out with a sequel this year. I will not be reading that. But for all of you who did like this book, I'm glad for you. And there's a sequel coming out for you. You go read it. I will pass. Next is The Women by Kristen Hanna. I am sorry to say, every once in a while, I'll like Kristen Hanna and it makes me feel like I can keep going. But for the most part, I don't enjoy her writing. This is about a woman who becomes a nurse during the Vietnam War. I think her brother goes to war and she's like, I have to do something too. So she joins as a nurse. What I struggle with Kristen Hanna's books for the most part is we meet characters who have not had a lot of life happen to them yet. First of all, they're always young. So naturally, a lot of the time, people don't have a lot happen to them when they're young. You kind of hope that you don't have lots to happen to you when you're young, because that probably means there's trauma. In any case, but we meet someone who's kind of naive, kind of innocent, and then they're thrown into a situation where all of that is pretty much lost and everything that happens to them is very impactful on them and they don't know exactly how to deal with it. That is in the story as well. I feel like our main character was always just reacting like a baby would, kind of, because there's no internal perspective because nothing has happened to them yet. It's like her characters kind of react with no internal compass, if that makes any sense. And I think a little bit more experience in life would help provide her internal compass. And you'd have a more interesting story. So I was bored and I ended up DNFing this. You guys know I have been trying to dip my toe into fantasy this past year. It hasn't gone perfectly. I will say Robin Hobb has kind of saved the day. I read one book by her and really liked it. But I was like, I'm going to just branch out and try a bunch of different kinds and see what sticks. Well, let me tell you, Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas did not stick. Oh my God. I really hated this book and I DNF'd it at some point because I was just like, I kind of hate my life while reading this book, so I'm going to stop. This is about a woman who is an assassin. She is very young. She is thrown into a prison internment camp, kind of mixed together. But the prince of the land has decided that she will be his assassin for a series of games. Now, I usually like games in a book, like Hunger Games, loved it because of the games and how intricate they were. I really enjoyed that. There were very few games and very few were very interesting in this book. And what I found really frustrating about this book was it just didn't seem believable to me. Like her reactions to things, the way that she thought didn't make any sense. The whole idea is if she refuses to be the prince's assassin, she'll just go back to prison. So wouldn't she try to escape? No, she refuses to try to do that. Instead, there's like romancy stuff in here that doesn't make any sense. If you were enslaved by a kingdom and the head of that kingdom is forcing you to become their assassin, you wouldn't have feelings for them, would you? You wouldn't have nice feelings. And yet here we are in this book with all of that. She was like, ended up being a bit of a pick-me girl, and it just made me mad. To be honest, it made me mad. End of Story by AJ Finn was another one that was quite boring. I was really disappointed because I really liked The Woman in the Window. I know AJ Finn has a lot of controversy around him. I've done a whole video about that. I can link that below for you if you're interested. But I was like, you know, people make mistakes. And this is something that I feel like you could maybe claw your way out of. And I can see this being something that he could overcome. But then he wrote this book and I was like, well, it's just not very good. Like, I just really didn't like it. This is about a woman who has a pen pal with a very famous novelist. And he is, it seems, dying and he wants her to come and write the story of his life. He's going to tell her the story of his life. She goes, she meets his daughter and starts to have conversations with the family. And what's kind of scary about this man is that years and years ago, his wife and son just vanished one night. I think it was like New Year's Eve or something. They vanished and were never to be seen again. He's since like had a new wife and I think had another child. So there is that. But she's kind of infiltrating this family. The most interesting thing about this book to me was that there were some secret passageways. I love a secret passageway. But I did not love this writing. It was very boring. I hemmed and hawed whether I should have this next one on the list, but I decided in the end that I should. And it's Big Swiss. This has been like a YouTube darling, booktube darling, but was very frustrating for me. This follows a woman who works for a therapist. Her job is to write out everything that happens in this man's practice. He records the practices, she transcribes them, and she listens in, of course, as you're doing that, but you're supposed to like not tell anybody, not get emotionally involved. She becomes obsessed with the woman she has called Big Swiss. They live in a very small town, and so she kind of stalks Big Swiss and becomes friendly with her. They end up having a relationship, and I just found this to be so pretentious. I really struggle with pretentiousness in a book. It really drives me nuts for the most part. And in this book, it was no different. It just felt too pretentious for me, and I just didn't like it. I did finish it, but I didn't like it. Finally, last but not least, is Nana by Brandon Massey. I was so excited. This is a horror book about a woman who was adopted. She was adopted by this wonderful woman after her mom could not take care of her as a baby. Her birth mother, her adopted mother, has since passed away. At the funeral, her birth mother shows up, and she's so excited to meet her birth mother, and she, welcomes her birth mother into her home. So she has children, she has a husband. Then there's suddenly this birth mother just like hanging out and will not leave. And we follow the husband's perspective. He is not a good father. He is not a good husband. He's cheating on his wife left, right, and center. And this birth mother like understands who he is and sees through everything. But she is also taking from her daughter, taking her youth. There's like some like witchiness in here. And I liked the premise of that, but it ended up being more like hypersexualizing women. And it had that trope of like the older woman being jealous of a younger woman's beauty and wanting to take that beauty. And I just think that that's not a very helpful trope, especially written by a man. So I did not enjoy that one in the end, and it wasn't scary at all. So those are all of the books that I just did not get on with in 2024. Let me know in the comments below, did you read a book last year that you were just like, why? And why am I not getting on with it? I'd just love to know what your worst book is. Maybe you'll save me from reading it. Maybe I'll be defiant and say, I'm gonna read it anyway. And then you can say, haha, when I didn't like it. Yeah, I'd love to know in the comments below. And I will talk with you soon. I will be coming back at you with my favorite books of 2024 very soon. Okay, bye.